First Amendment, you have every right to do it. We welcome you.
Even though it's private property, we have a right to do that?
Yes, you do. We've already talked to the district attorney.
Oh, good.
Who said that, it is public as long as you're not, impeding people.
No.
Impeding businesses or obviously impeding with the recruitment center or whatever.
No.
You're more than welcome. Pass your word.
Signs are okay?
Signs are okay.
Yeah, we're just going to wear them, like
that's fine.
like a signboard.
That's fine. We're going to have, obviously, we got a lot of officers around.
Okay.
And that's not just for you guys, but, there very well may be people who obviously have a difference in opinion.
Nobody of us.
And we don't want them to harass you.
Okay.
And we know that that's a possibility too. So, we really just want to make sure that everything is peaceful.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing.
That's our goal too.
That's what it says here.
Right, Veterans for Peace. I don't know. Obviously, word travels. I don't know if you're expecting more people or if you're expecting.
14 we're expecting.
I don't know if you're expecting a lot of students.
No.
Because I know they've heard about it, and certainly you guys have your piece. As veterans, you've certainly paid your dues for the country, and that's part of the First Amendment.
Okay,
so,
great. I'm glad to hear that the First Amendment is still standing.
Your name again?
We're in agreement.
My name? Daryl. Daryl Lindsay. I'm a lieutenant here with Vestal PD. So, and I'll kind of be your point of contact if you need something, if you have problems. Like I said, we have officers around and we're going to be here, and that's really, as much for your safety as everybody else's.
We're not thinking of enlisting, really. Yeah. Been there, done that. Got some funny green clothes.
And what's your role or what's your title or your position here with Veterans for Peace?
Well, I'm a member of Veterans for Peace and have been for years. We meet once a month usually over at the Union Church at Riverside Drive. And we're here to make a statement in front of the recruiting station.
And what kind of statement are you guys trying to make? What do you want these people to know? What do you want the recruitment center
What we really want the young people to know is that when they walk in and talk to recruiters, or when recruiters go into their school, that they are going to hear lies. They're going to hear an awful lot of lies. But young men, when they're recruited trained to kill. All of us here in the military, that have been in the military, we're trained to kill, whether we actually did or not. Most individuals do not. Most individuals who go into the military do not. But The fact is that these young men and women have to learn that they may have another person's life on their mind for the rest of their life. They may, under the guise of doing something for freedom or some other lies that the government gives out, will end up killing another individual. And we're totally opposed to that. There have to be other answers. And the answer to kill, to teach to kill for peace, is a pretty absurd kind of logic.
And what do you say about the war in Iraq right now? What does Veterans for Peace think about what's going on over there?
Well, I can speak for myself, but by the same token, I know what the Veterans for Peace has been speaking for many years. Veterans for Peace, after the first Gulf War, went over afterwards and tried to get the water back in shape. The American government just blew apart the water systems in Iraq. Hundreds of thousands of children died over a long period of time during our sanctions. So it's not like this war is just 5 years old. This war has been going on for 17 years. And it's basically because of oil. I mean, if it was for figs or dates or nuts, I mean, let's be serious about this. We would not be over there. We would have been into Africa and Asia and many other countries over the years for other reasons, but that is not the case. It's oil. And so we're willing to teach our young people that, yes, they can kill in order that we can have all these SUVs and other vehicles around here purring and running on American streets. And it's absolutely immoral. It's wrong. It's illegal as well.
Do you think, a lot of Americans, would it be fair to say that they sort of block out what's going on in Iraq right now and they don't think about it as much as they should?
Sure.
Do you think they do, and why?
Sure, because, they're not sacrificing any. Their sons and daughters are not being called up. Last week when the activity occurred here on the Vestal Parkway, if there was a draft on, there would have been thousands of students out on it. There would have been people, totally in support of that. But it was just a handful of students because there's no fear of American people having their children sent to war. It's a volunteer situation. Individuals are told they're lied to in school, they're lied to by the government, they're lied to at home, that this is all about freedom, and we know that that's not true. It's a lie. What they're telling young people in here is a fabrication of the truth. And so we applaud the students from Binghamton University. And I think that to say that they cause some inconvenience is true. But think of the 5 years, think of the 17 years of inconvenience that the United States has caused the Iraqi people. The hundreds of thousands of Iraqis who have died, 4,000 of our own people, and untold numbers wounded and mentally disturbed coming back. It's something that we'll be paying for generations and generations. We're creating terrorism. We're not stopping terrorism, we're creating more terrorism. That's the truth. The lies are that they're stopping terrorism. It's an outright, absolute lie. It's a fabrication. The lies that the government, the United States government is telling, is that the war in Iraq is a war for freedom. It's a war to stop terror. The fact is that it has nothing to do with American freedom, and it's not stopping terror. It's creating terrorism. When you teach these young men who go in here and eventually go into Iraq to kick down doors at 2 o'clock in the morning, take individuals out, men, women, and children, prostrate them on the road, put their boots in their backs, and begin threatening them, and then send them in off to prison. This is not going to cause terrorism. It's an absolute cause of terrorism, and it's going to be coming back. No matter who is in the presidency here, this individual group is the worst administration in the history of the United States. Absolutely the worst. And what is going to happen is that for generations we're going to be suffering from what has occurred over these past 8 years.
And you're a veteran of what war?
I'm not a war veteran. I'm a Cold War veteran. I was trained to kill back during the 1950s. I was in the infantry and the advanced infantry and a combat mountain team. But luckily enough, I never had to use a weapon. I would have because I was a teenager. And I was convinced. I was a good soldier. I was convinced that that's what you're supposed to do. Until I looked in the eyes of a Russian young man, a young Russian soldier, and began to realize that all I was taught was a lie, a major lie. And it's been that way ever since.
Anything else you would like to add yourself?
No, I would like to say that you should talk to some more of the veterans that are here because everybody has their own story. You could talk to Stu Naismith, for example, who ended up living with Quakers back in 1944 up in New York State as a 17-year-old and thought that they were pretty strange. And then then eventually went into the war and came back from the Pacific and became Quaker. He thought these Quakers were strange because they didn't believe in killing. He's here now, and his grandfather talked to him. His grandfather was the founder of the most popular game in American life world, basketball, James Naismith.
So what are the solutions that you guys are trying to promote?
Well, first off, the use of diplomacy and use of the UN as an agent instead of bypassing them and going around. In this particular case, the invasion of Iraq, before the invasion of Iraq, the inspectors were there and hadn't found anything, and they had access and permission to go back in. But our government jumped the gun and simply declared war, and I haven't figured out yet why.
Did you hear about the protests a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, there was a protest a couple of weeks
How do you
ago.
think the police handled that situation?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Oh, okay. There was a lot of pepper spraying and a lot of students got arrested. Why do you think it's better to come out here and be peaceful? Like, what, you guys are just like walking around and have like a very amiable, friendly motive. Like, why do you think it's better to be like that?
Because it accomplishes more. When you disturb society, and of course I do want to disturb society in knowing the horrors of war and the horrors of killing, just as my sign says on the front of me, it says, are you sure you really want to kill people? Because that's the ultimate goal of the military. It's not to educate people, it's not to train people. It's not to see that people have a bill of rights, it's to kill.
Okay, for young people who are thinking about possibly coming to this recruiting facility, what would you tell them is a better option?
Well, I've got some pamphlets that I've been getting out that gives alternatives to recruitment and ways into college and where they can seek financial support and guidance in going to college. There are such agencies. We have some of them here.
If there's one thing you want people who attended here to leave with, what would it be? Does that make sense?
Say it again.
Okay, if there's like one thing that you wanted, like someone who participated and came here to leave with, what would it be? Like the one thing for someone to remember?
Well, I would like it very much if people went away with the understanding that militarism and killing are not in the nature of men. Basically, men are decent beasts with certainly some flaws, but they're not by nature murderers or killers. They have to be trained to do it. They have to be hardened to kill.
What was your organization's goal for today?
Our organization's goal is to make people aware of the cost of war, and that people who go into the recruiting center sometimes don't come home, and sometimes come home badly damaged. And that this is a war that's illegal and immoral, and our position is that it never should have started, at least the war in Iraq. There might have been some justification for going to Afghanistan, but we seem to have given up on really finding Osama or whoever we're blaming for what happened. Iraq is maybe 500,000 to 1 million people dead. For what reason? For what good? Almost 5 million people displaced in Iraq. Some are out of the country in Syria and Jordan. Some are displaced in the country. There's sporadic electricity. There's no potable water in many areas for days at a time. These are conditions that were created by the United States, and we have to take responsibility. When this country starts seeing Iraqi children and caring about Iraqi children, I think we'll be a much better country as a world citizen. Right now, I don't think we see that. And I think that we really have to get in touch with our inner selves and think, is this morally justified, this war? And I can't come up with any good reasons why we're in Iraq. I mean, the lies that we were told, weapons of mass destruction, the dinner for the White House press corps, the president is making fun of that, looking under the table. I mean, some people really take umbrage with that, the way he does his cowboy diplomacy and uses war as a diplomatic tool when a threat of it. We bribe people, we bully people to join us, and many times we don't really listen to them. We don't even listen to our allies. I mean, Dick Cheney's on record as saying that, oh, that's the old Europe. You know, we don't do things that way anymore.
Okay,
and if people look, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
What solutions would you, what else can people do? Like, what else can our government do? Like, what's the solution to this problem?
I think people have to really hold the government accountable for its actions, and I think we elected a Democratic Congress, and we were looking forward to maybe hearing some of this hearings on articles of impeachment based on going to war, based on surveillance against U.S. citizens, based on torturing of prisoners in Guantanamo and other places. Abu Ghraib is maybe not an aberration, maybe it's not a few bad apples. I think Winter Soldier in Washington in the middle of March were people that were veterans from Afghanistan and Iraq wars spoke out about some of the things that they saw, and yet we didn't see much in the media on that, other than Amy Goodman on Democracy Now!
Okay, so you heard about the protests that happened last week. You guys are taking a much more peaceful approach, but how did you think that the protest a couple weeks ago was handled? Did you see any footage on it or anything? Or
yes, I did see some footage, and I saw the end of it, the protest here. Some people were already arrested. I thought the police may have overreacted to what was going on, and I thought the students were nonviolent. And while they went out on Vestal Parkway, that inconvenience is a lot less than Iraq's populace is going under right now. I mean, I think, you know, we're talking about disruption in people's lives. It might have been for maybe half an hour or so. I think that we could handle that, you know, and I think that if we had an occupying force here, we would have a lot different attitude. I mean, if Canada or Mexico, for instance, were to invade the United States, you know, I think people would get, you know, upset about that. I think Irish citizens would be out there doing something about it. And I think that's what we're seeing in Iraq. You know, we're fed a lot of lies by the administration about who is in Iraq and what they're doing. And Al-Qaeda was never in Iraq, to anyone's knowledge, when Saddam ruled that country with an iron fist. But now they're there, right? There's many other issues that are unleashed because of our being there and are running roughshod over the population.
Okay, why did you guys choose this specific location? Why did you think, what was the impact of choosing this location?
No, the impact here is that this is the conduit to get people into the military. And the military is not doing the mission that they should be doing, which is defense of the country, which is upholding the Constitution. They are invading a sovereign nation in Iraq, and they were not invited into Iraq by anyone. They took it upon themselves, and they did not let the UN inspectors finish their inspections. There were no weapons of mass destruction. We've been fed a steady diet of lies about mushroom clouds. We don't want to see them as a smoking gun. And if you look at many of the people in the administration echoed the same exact Fox talking points. Are you Fox?
No. Okay. No, we're ABC.
But they echoed the same things. We heard it from Condoleezza Rice, we heard it from Colin Powell, we heard it from Dick Cheney, we heard it from Donald Rumsfeld, we heard it from George Bush, and any other little mouthpiece that they trotted out there was repeating the same thing, and I blame the media for not calling them on it.
Okay.
Getting the same crap fed to them and not questioning it.
Okay, if there's one thing that you would want people here to leave with, what would it be? Just one, like, quick thing.
That we need to bring the troops home now, and we need to change the mission. The mission has got to be to rebuild the country of Iraq, not to occupy it. And we need to let the Iraqis rebuild it. And we need to pay reparations to that country so that they can get back to where they were, hopefully, before we invaded their sovereign nation.